What's up, everybody? So I'm just showing you guys some video gear here. We are live with Q&A Friday, episode 43. Cannot believe it's been 43 episodes. Can't believe it's been 43 episodes already. So thank you guys so much for the support, for the dedicated listeners out there. Really, really appreciate it. The way that Q&A Friday works is we've already been asked a number of questions privately, but I want to see live questions come in, and I'm going to answer them for you guys. They could be questions about shooting style, posing, directing, lighting, in camera, how we do what we do, all that kind of stuff. It can be marketing, it can be pricing, it can be client stuff, it can be personal, it can be work-life balance, whatever you guys want to ask. I'd love to give you some feedback, and I might not know the answer, and so if I don't, I'll just tell you that this is maybe my current approach, but I'm kind of learning and figuring it out as I go. And so thank you guys so much, the 5 of you. Hey 5. What's going on? Mike, how's it going, man? Thanks for saying hey. The rest of you 4, say what's up. Seth, freaking Seth, what's up, man? For those of you who don't know, Seth is Seth from Seth and Beth Photography, also here in Columbus, badass photographers. They keep me on my toes. He's a really good dude, you guys. Take a look at his work. Who else is out there? Say hey, say what up. I'd love to talk with you guys here. We're going to let a few of you guys, I love you too, man. We're going to let a few of you guys roll in here, and I'm going to kind of BS for a little bit before we get to some questions. Be thinking about questions. I want to see them dropped in. Again, I already have a few that have been sent to me in like private messages. But, here we go. Hey, Ben, talk about how you off set up for... Talk about how you off set up for reception. How many flashes? Okay, off-camera lighting. For sure, man. I'll definitely get into that, Scott. I think we have a really great setup. I'm going to give you guys kind of two approaches to it as well. So anyhow, here we go. A couple things, off-camera flash. Thanks, man. A couple things that are going on today. Actually, today we have a shoot with Piata. We got a first commercial video client, which is pretty exciting. It's something that we're just kind of dabbling, slowly working kind of into, and we have setup. This is just one of our rigs here. It's the A7S II going recording 4K externally into a Ninja Shogun, battery powered, so you don't have to deal with the battery issues of the A7 series. Follow focus rig. Got a badass cage on this thing to divert from the recording here. I can now record on my handle. And then set up with a shotgun mic. Not that you guys care too much about video, but maybe, just maybe some of you do. Okay, you guys, here's the deal. We're going to jump right in. This is episode 43. Can we just acknowledge that for a quick second? Thank you guys so freaking much for hanging around for 43 episodes. I would not do this if there wasn't 6 of you watching right now, and obviously tons more later. And so I just want to say thank you guys. This means the world to me. I'm going to keep just dishing out content as much as I can to help you guys out, to help grow your business, improve your photography in any possible way that I can. And this small platform right here, you guys, this to me, I take this like... I don't want to say more seriously, but like this is even more important than the big stage. Like I'm going to be speaking at United and CPC and Imaging PPA and Mystic, likely WPPI. But it's these small moments with these guys, like these one-to-one moments where I get to actually get your questions right off the bat and give you guys very real answers that make me tick, that get me excited. And so thanks for giving me the opportunity to work with you guys like this. Seth, yeah, the 6300, man, it's really nice. It's a great setup, dude. That camera's so small. It's incredible what they've been able to pack in. It's funny, the 5D Mark IV just came out, and they're still 2 years behind Sony. Sorry, I'm a 5D guy myself, but they're still 2 years behind Sony in the video department. Okay, you guys, let's jump in. Q&A Friday, get those questions rolling. We already have a few. In the meantime, I'm going to do our little intro video here for you guys, and get... Episode 43, Six Figure Live. Dude, Tony, that's a really great question, my man. I'm gonna have to drop down to see more. I want to get to that in a moment. I'm gonna take these in the order that I've received them, and we'll see what we can get through. Keep fielding them. The way this will also work out, if you're just tuning in and you're not tuning in live, you're watching this later. Feel free to drop in a question in the comments section anyhow, and I'm gonna try to keep refreshing it and taking a look, and then I'll answer your question in the comments, or I'll just save it for next week. So I got fielded a couple questions from Thomas. Thomas is a good friend of mine up in Canada. He came to Abundance last year and he's been kicking it. Really good dude. And he asked me a question. It was a question about online galleries, online gallery sales. And maybe even I will go ahead and I want to make sure that I do his question justice and I don't ad-lib anything. And so let me open up and read exactly what he wrote, because I was about to ad-lib and I want to make sure that I read it exactly as it is. But it's going to have to do with online sales, creating online galleries, and doing print sales that way. There's a few different companies, obviously, that you could do that through. And so he was having some troubles with it, not making sales. And so I'm going to give feedback right now. Here's his question. Okay. Thomas, he said, I started using Pixie Set for weddings, and I have got 0 sales from it. How do you present the gallery, or how do you make it public to everyone? Okay, great question, man. So for starters, this is common. A lot of times what happens is we as photographers will use Pixie Set or Pass or any number online gallery sales system, and we'll turn it on and we'll deliver our clients their images that way, and we'll hope it works and they buy stuff and they send it out to family and friends and they buy stuff, and it won't happen that way. You will get 0 sales. There has to be a number of steps in place that will actually generate that. It won't just work on its own. It never will. You have to educate. That's one step. There's a couple steps to it. The first is education. And so when I say education, you have to take the time to really inform the client. Walk them through it in person, walk them through your website, and actually show them, hey, you guys, this is where you can go ahead. And I give direction, I give ideas, right? I say, this is where, if you want to get, let's say, a 4x6 or an 8x10 as a thank you gift to your mom or dad, or maybe to the cake or the dress designer to show her an image, this is where you can get them a professional print, really affordable for you guys, but it's going to be mailed directly to you. You have instant access to this. As well as family and friends want to print off images, you can just send them this link and they're going to be able to get all of their images right from here, but from a professional lab through us. And so it's really, really awesome. It's so efficient. And we happen to use a lab that does things really efficiently and quickly. So actually educate and give them ideas on what it looks like. The next really big mistake actually that happens is photographers try to sell photographers tend to do that. Well, I think most people do this, but we either try to sell everything or we sell nothing, right? So many photographers, they don't sell anything. They're just like, here's the digital, here's your pass gallery. If you want to buy shit, then do it. And of course no one's going to, because you've already just given them everything. You've reduced yourself to shoot and burn. And they have no desire, they have no interest in print. And so we either just give away everything, and then of course no sale will occur, or we try to sell everything. And all I mean is this: we try to push everything. We try to sell albums and we try to sell prints, and we're pushing it all equally. And there's a problem when you push everything equally, okay? When you push everything equally, it comes across 2 ways. One is it comes across as well, pushy, a lot more of a hard sell. And it can also be like kind of draining, and it gives them too many directions. And so I really encourage photographers to choose a profit maximizer and then a downsell option, okay? And so there's really 2 main kind of things. We have albums and then we have wall art. And so being a wedding photographer, for me, my album makes way more sense to be a profit maximizer. And that's what I want our couples to buy. I want them to have, every single client of ours has an album, okay? And that's where there's going to be a more profit from that. And also it just makes sense for weddings because it's a story, it's a narrative format. Whereas maybe, portraiture makes more sense to have the album as a downsell and the profit maximizer being wall art. And what do I mean by these terms? What I mean is this: a profit maximizer is going to be the main piece that you're making sure that every person has, and it's going to have anywhere from a 70 to 90% profit margin. The downsell is going to be a back end purchase that is going to be closer to a 50% profit margin, much, much lower. And it's going to be much more automated. There's going to be less of the hands-on hand holding through it. It's going to be an automated system, and if you get a sale, then great. You've just turned someone who wasn't a customer into a customer, and it's going to trickle in income for you guys. And so what we've done with that is we let clients know that like we're not trying to, by the way, you guys, we're not trying to make a ton of money on the back end with Pixie Set or Pass or these online sales systems, but we are. and just because we're actually getting sales, because we've reduced the prices to be lower than I think the industry standard is, candidly. But that's because I'm trying to use albums as the profit maximizer, and then I get to say, you guys, check this out. We have professional prints for you guys that you can get access to that are at a really affordable cost. And I'm honest with them. I say, look, it's not going to be cheaper than Walmart, but you don't want cheap, okay? You don't want cheaper than Walmart. But we have made them so much more affordable. You're going to get professional images directly through us. That honestly, they're at a really, really good price. So please take a look at that as you're looking at 4x6s, 8x10s as gifts, as thank you, even just to put up, around holidays, Christmas is coming around. I encourage you guys, definitely do this. You're going to be way happier than if you go to Walgreens and you come out looking like a pumpkin, or worse yet, you come out looking green, okay? And this just trickles in. It trickles in money. Like there's like $100, $200, $300 purchases that'll just trickle in throughout the year as we're doing this. And so we're encouraging. So that's the thing. I think it's education, and I think it's the other thing is recognizing that you don't want to push everything as this huge giant purchase to your clients all the time. Be on their side. Just be like, look, we've just reduced the price. We want you to have wall art. We want you to have prints in your house. And because of that, we haven't jacked up the prices on these. They're really great. Go get them. You're not going to regret doing that. And so that's one of the solutions that we have, Thomas. The next question he has is a little bit more of a fun one. So many of you may know I'm an oil painter as well as a photographer and a videographer, an entrepreneur and whatever, a dad. So I'm an oil painter. So this is an oil painting I'm currently working on right now, and I've been kind of taking you guys through the stages of it. It's an underpainting currently, and he asked the question, well, dude, why don't I just, I'm doing layers, right? So this is probably my fourth layer. So I'm building up layers. I do a charcoal drawing, and then I build up the highlights, shadows, veil. I'm working on the shadows now. He said, why don't you just paint it? Why don't you just like mix the color and then just apply the direct color? For example, Leslie, my wife, her skin is, she's peach, so to speak. Why don't I just mix up a peach tone and then paint it directly? And that's because that's not the way that light and color in the world tends to work in most situations. Light will actually, the way that we see things is light passes through objects and then it hits it and then it comes back, especially when we're talking about skin, right? Your skin is like translucent, a ton of translucent layers. And so I want to get as close to realistic as possible. And so I'm creating a ton of translucent layers that the light, physical light, when it comes and it hits this canvas, it's going to go through all those layers, hit the back end, which is a warm toned canvas, come all the way back through those layers, and then hit my eye. And it creates what's called an optical gray, right? These grays right here are optical grays. That's not, I didn't mix that gray. That's a number of layers that have built up to create a gray. And it creates a dynamic gray, a very interesting gray. And this is what's going to create a realism in the skin tones. And so I'll stop talking about that because you guys are photographers and not painters. But that's what's going on with it. It's a good question, man. Okay, let's keep going. We got some great questions. Carrie's here, Jackie's in the house, Scott's in the house. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for joining. Okay, let's keep going here. So Scott asked a question. Hey Ben, talk about your off-camera reception lighting. Yeah, man, I would love to do that. So one of the things, and actually this just got brought up below that, I think Tony asked a really great question, and that's. So six-figure photography, right? We're talking a lot about running a sustainable business. And yet at the same time, man, we really love the creative side of things. We're very involved in that process. We're not hacks when it comes to photography. And I want to encourage you guys to check out our work at Style and Story Creative. Take a look at the stuff that we're doing. I think there's some inspiration that could be found there. And so I always enjoy getting questions about the creative side of things. Even abundance, right? We have a workshop, abundance. we don't even get into the creative side of things. It's entirely about, man, how do you actually create a business that blesses your clients, your family, yourself, and your team? And so it's all about sustainability. But I think we're going to do something down the road here where we're going to start teaching people really how to step up their game and start creating some magic with their work. But anyhow, reception lighting. So for starters is not all receptions are created equally, right? So if I were to go and shoot an entirely outdoor setup, it's going to be different than if I were to walk into a drop ceiling all white walls setup. And so we have to recognize that. But goodness, where do we begin? Let's go ahead and we're gonna discuss the most common kind of reception setup that you guys might face, and so we'll say that it's a ballroom with maybe 10 to 20 foot tall ceilings, and we'll just hypothetically say that they are white. And so what we will do when we walk into a reception is we have our camera, we have a flash on our camera. And so this flash on our camera, though, you guys, is not actually firing. Okay, bum bum bum. It's actually just triggering. The reason it's a flash instead of a trigger is occasionally if I get into a pickle and I step outside and there's no walls to bounce off of or anything like that and I need to just use it, I can turn it on as a flash. But this is really hard, by the way, to talk about without actually having a setup here or at the very least a diagram. So give me some grace here. But so we have a flash in our camera, and then we have a thing that we just call light on a stick. It's like our favorite technique, and it's just called light on a stick. It's a little tiny stand, the tiniest little portable stand ever, and we run around with this the entire day. We have a flash on a camera the entire day, and we have a light on a stick the entire day. On this light, it's a 600. We use the Canon series, or it's a Younglow. If you guys are a Nikon or some other camera support system, the Younglow systems are really affordable, and they have radio triggers built in. You guys, Nikon, level up, man. Freaking hell, Nikon. Enough of this trigger bull, like Pocket Wizards and all this other stuff. It's honestly, it's in 2016, it's garbage. I'm sorry, I love you guys, but it's garbage. Like, there's no need to have a separate accessory that you need to charge, have batteries for, worry about plugging in, tinkering with, losing, breaking. And so the Canon series or the Younglow series does have built-in radio triggers. If you want to take a look at this on my tools page of the Six Figure Photography blog, on the tools section, there are Younglow triggers on there that you can see a direct link to. If you buy from there, by the way, I think I get like $1, so that's cool. You can help me out like that, but don't feel obligated. So anyhow, so it's wirelessly radio triggering to the other flash that's on a stick. With the light on a stick, I have a little mag mod. I've got a mag mod grid on there. By the way, if you guys use the coupon code SFP at Magmod, you're going to get $5 off. So that's sweet too. Magmod is a supporter of ours. And so SFP for Magmod. But anyhow, we put a mag grid on there, just a single grid, and that helps keep the light focused up and directed to where we want it. And now with this light on a stick, let's say it's time for toasts. Okay, what we're going to do for toasts or even dances, we'll just say toasts for now. They sometimes often will happen first. What we'll do is all flashes are going to be off, and I'm going to dial my exposure up to 1 stop underexposed for the background. Sometimes 2 stops under, but usually 1 stop underexposed for the background. I'm going to set my shutter speed at 200. Okay, 200 because that's oftentimes the max sync speed. I want to keep it as fast as possible to reduce, motion blur. So 200 because I can't go any faster and still synchronize with my shutter and the flash. So 200, I'll often shoot at 1.4 or 2.8. Let's say 2.8, so I'm at 200 shutter speed, f2.8, and now I dial my ISO up until I'm 1 stop underexposed. Again, you guys remember we have 2 exposures to resolve for, and so keep the flash off and solely resolve for your ambient light first. Okay, flash is off. Shutter speed's at 200, aperture's at 2.8. I turn my ISO up until I'm 1 stop under. How do I know when I'm 1 stop under? Well, freaking hell, you look at the back of your screen. Again, it's 2016. Look at the back of your screen and say like, yeah, this is 1 stop underexposed. Well, super cool. I'll put on flash white balance, or I'll put a CTO gel with that. That's complicated. Technically, it's complicated, so I'm not going to talk about that. And then I will literally, you guys, walk out onto the dance floor. I'll take my little tiny light on a stick, and I'll put it 6 feet up in the air, about 7 feet away from the speaker. It's like it's actually just like right up there, you guys. It's like 7 feet away from the speaker. and it's going to just point right at him. And now I will turn my flash on, and I'm going to dial it up until, I'll start it at 1/32 power, by the way, on manual, 1/32 power on manual, and I'm going to dial it up or down depending on if I need more or less light. And what's really great about this, the reason why this is better than bouncing your light, I'm going to show you why, is because now I can roam. I can walk anywhere I want in the entire reception hall. I can go up close, I can go really far back, and the light isn't dependent. If it's bouncing on your camera, it's going to bounce off of where you're at and then come back, which means you have to stay close to your subject. Does that make sense? Well, with this technique, I don't. And so I can really go wherever I want and just create magic. And I'm going to show you guys an image of why this is important, because this is where you start getting into doing really cool shit, you guys. When you start seeing images in Fearless and in Rangefinder, a lot of times this is a technique that they're doing because you can really do some cool stuff. I'm going to show you a picture that Ben Adams took, and I kind of hate him for it because he just destroyed this image, and I wish I took it, but I didn't. I think I've shown some of you this image. I'm going to turn my camera on so you can see. Check this out, you guys. Oh wait, let me go full screen, enter full screen. Check this out. Okay. My camera is currently overexposing the couple because it's exposing for the shadows here, but Ben went all the way up into the balcony because his flash was like right here and it was hitting the couple, and it gave him now the ability to go wherever he wanted in the room and the couple would be lit. And now we get all this gorgeous lighting. He can do something dynamic and interesting and travel around the room. You could not have done this shot by bouncing your light, because if he would have bounced his light, what would have been lit? He would have bounced it, and the light would have gone ping, ping, and like lit up this this thing over here, the lamp, right? Not the couple down there. So that is that's one technique. There's a few others that we use, but I'm not going to unpack those now. That was a long enough explanation. So thanks, Scott. You should try it out, man. Just probably not at a wedding. Do some samples, some mock-ups. Okay, cool. Let's keep going. Mike says, how do you come up with poses for your couples? Man, so posing for your couples, I think there's some ideas of like some gestures that are really interesting, or we'll say poses that are very interesting. A lot of times I'm looking sometimes I actually just look at the way that I interact with my wife, the way that I would hold her, the way that's very natural when we're just together. I look at other couples and the way that they hold each other. You can get into the whole editorial thing and look at magazines and posing. But I think the biggest thing is having an idea of what you want. Let's say you want to do it. I talk a lot about the nose to nose shot because it's so overdone poorly. So if you want to do a couple that's nose to nose and kind of has this intimate moment where they're looking at each other and they're snuggled close, don't say pulling nose to nose. You need to create more movement with that. You need to create more energy with that, and you need to let the client decipher what does that look like for them, because nose to nose for my wife and I is going to be different than nose to nose for a couple who's really kind of shy about PDA, right? And so we need to figure out what does this look like. And so if I were to tell a couple to go nose to nose, and they don't like PDA, they're gonna just stare right at each other, and it's gonna look like really stiff. But if I say, as the couple is 3 or 4 feet away, hey, you guys, I want you to pull in close. I want you to just draw your faces in close together, okay? And at that point, when you're giving more open-ended kind of room for interpretation, draw yourselves in close together. And if they're a little bit more bashful, she might shy away and tuck into his shoulder and giggle a little, and he might try to cover her up because he knows she's a little bit uncomfortable. And there might be a really sweet moment there. And so I think it's less about having a direct idea that you're going to see put forth, and more of having an idea of what you want, but then leaving room for interpretation. Again, this is tricky to discuss without actually showing and giving you guys that. Anyhow, that's my thoughts, man. Cool, let's keep going. Tony, this is a really great question, my dude. Thanks for asking it, man. I know a lot of focus of SFP, six-figure photography, is on abundance and self-worth, but one thing I don't hear much from you is your journey to mastering your craft. You guys take amazing photos. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it, man. What resources would you suggest for someone working on getting that aspect sorted out? Dude, that's a solid question, because, again, I was not so I was an art major, right? And so I've always been in the business of making things look good. That's what I tell people when people ask, "What do I do?" I say I make things look good, and I help other people make things look good. And so but I didn't study photography, right? I didn't study that. I picked it up and then just went to town. Within 3 years, this is the crazy thing. Style and Story Creative has only been around for 3 years, and the growth that we've seen has been incredible. And so, what was that process like? How did we get there? For starters, I think as we're talking about self-worth and we're talking about abundance, I think there's the constant reminder, and I still have to remind myself of this. You guys have to remind yourself of this. You will not, like, these overnight successes aren't overnight, you guys. It takes time and it takes chipping it away. Dude, there's 8 of you guys watching right now, and then we're at episode 43. I've been doing this for 43 episodes, and we have 8 of you guys watching, and I'm still chipping away. I think in episode 1, I probably had like 2 of you watching. Actually, I'm pretty sure there was 0, and then I showed up again the next day. You have to chip away. You have to keep showing the F up, and just working at it and working at it and working at it. And at the time, I was thrashing. I call it thrashing. Thrash. When I say thrashing, I mean I would go out and I would shoot, and then I would try something else, and I'd shoot. And I'd be like, man, there's this whole off-camera lighting thing that's going on. I'm just going to go buy a light and start shooting. I was thrashing. I was trying every possible thing that I could. I was stealing family members and sisters and sister-in-laws and going on and doing shoots with them. And so I recognized within myself that this was going to take work, and it was going to take work, and I just needed to keep going at it, and I just didn't stop. I didn't stop when someone told me no, right? You guys, the amount of no's that we still get today, we get a ton of no's today, and that's okay, because there's people out there that are going to say yes. And so just recognizing that I just got to keep going for it. I just got to keep working at it, and it takes some self-talk. And I really mean that. It does take some self-talk. There's times where I just feel like shit, man. I just feel like, what am I doing? Why am I a photographer? Why am I at this? Why am I doing 6-figure photography? Like, people aren't listening or whatever. Right? Like, these are things, the lies that you believe. And you just have to, like, settle in and be like, no, I'm doing this because A, I care. I have a voice, and I think that I've got a shot at this, and I'm going to keep going at it. As far as other resources, there are so many resources out there, guys. It's 2016, and there's so many resources online. I think SFP is a great one for you guys. I think Fearless is a phenomenal one. They just did like a 24-hour critique on fearless photographers, and it was amazing, you guys. I do on Wednesdays. I do much smaller critiques for you guys directly. But I think taking a look at some of these other crews, and to be honest, it's educating. One of the best decisions I made financially was I invested in myself by going to workshops, going to WPPI. I went to WPPI in 2013, and I learned something there that over the next year brought in another $45,000, which was incredible. But I learned about lighting. I learned about technique. Go and actually invest in yourself. If this is what you want to do, if you want to work your dream job, if you want to do this for the rest of your life and make an income doing it, then show up and start investing in yourself. It's going to be the fastest way for you guys to really like fast track it. There's no magic bullet, but the best thing you can do is learn from others who are better than you. Just constantly surround yourself with people who are better than you. This is why I'm so stoked to be at Mystic, man. I'm gonna be speaking at Mystic, and I look around the room, I look at every other speaker who's there, and I'm like, hell freaking yeah. This is the crowd I want to be in, because I look up to every one of these photographers. Whenever I'm in a space, I want to know that there are other people that are better than me, and I just want to keep surrounding myself with them. That being said, there's nothing better than just shooting and practicing. So, okay, cool. Tony, thanks, man. Whew. Scott, how do you guys manage money, payroll, etc.? Do you have a company do it for you? Do you have any good resources? I freaking hate money and management and all that stuff. I'm like the pits at it. And so we have an accountant, a CPA, who does all of our payroll. He does our accounting. We just hired him to take on our bookkeeping because I was just complete shit at it. And so he's done that. I think, I guess my advice is I like small companies. I say find a small company, find an individual that you have a relationship with, that you can build, that you can trust. For us, you guys, that was a groom. we hired a groom to be our CPA, a past groom. A lot of the people that actually could continue to work for us that we hire out to do things were past clients of ours because we have a relationship there. And so this was not a trade of services, by the way. We charged them to shoot their wedding, and now they charge us to do their CPA stuff, and that's cool. You could also do trade of services, but I would do that. I mean, I would ask other photographers, who are they using? Look for direct referrals. My guy's like a local dude, so it wouldn't help me to give you his name. I don't think, unless you're in Columbus, Ohio. So that's what I would say. Good question. Thanks, Scott. Carrie, hey Carrie, what's up, girl? Carrie says, question. I love it. I'm a photographer and I'm photographing an event next month, and the biggest thing they want is a large group photo of everyone, about 150 people. The time are set, so I don't have any control over that. The time are set. But looking for suggestions on how to be effective and make sure it looks okay. So I think the biggest thing is going to be perspective, to be able to see everyone. And so I would show up prepared to either use an environmental space to get yourself elevated or have a backup ladder. When you're doing 150 people, you're just going to need to get higher than them. That's going to be the number one thing. Other than that, depending on lighting, all that stuff, if you can find a large enough space of open shade, then that'd be great. And so when I say open shade, that would be like if my hand was here casting a shadow, that'd be open shade, versus if it was a roof, an enclosed box, that's kind of closed shade. So open shade is going to allow for a lot of reflective light to bounce in and light everybody. But honestly, with 150 people, I doubt that you're going to find a space that large enough of open shade, unless the gods bless you and you have like a nice cloud that comes overhead. And so I would do that, and then of course you're just gonna need to shoot with the right lens. You're probably gonna need to throw in a 35 and then back up far enough. I would avoid probably a 24. I think when you start getting that big, but you just might need to. If you can't get far enough back, you may need to go a 24. So those would be my thoughts, and then make sure you stop down far enough. And so if you're gonna be wide enough, like on a 24, I think shooting at f6.3 will be enough to get everyone in focus, because again, depth of field is directly relational to three things: how close you are to the subject, you're gonna be pretty far away because it's that big of a group; your aperture, so that'd be 6.3, maybe 5.6, but then as well how wide you are, your focal length, and you're gonna be pretty wide. And so I think with those three things all factored in, 5.6 is probably gonna be enough to give you relative focus throughout the group of people. So Carrie, that is the answer to my question, or to your question. If it's indoors, then you're gonna need to start considering lighting, and you may just need a bounce light. And in this large of a group, you may just want to bounce directly behind you and kind of up at 45 degrees to bring a lot of flat, even light across them, only because you've got so many people to light. I think when you start going from the side, this group on one side, it's such a big group, are going to be much more lit than the group on the far end. And so I just think you need to do much more even lighting. And is it going to be an award-winning photograph? No, it's going to be a group of 150 people. So cool. Hey, I appreciate you saying thanks, Carrie. That's awesome of you. Dave says, do you feel like experience should dictate how much you can charge in the start? Or can the quality of your images, branding, cost of doing business, etc., dictate your prices? If someone is new to shooting weddings specifically, do they need to come in with low prices? Dave, that's a really solid question. I think this is a question on a lot of photographers' minds. The reality is you got to get business going. And so I understand that there are costs involved, that there's branding, and you might step into a brand new city and be a badass mother effer who's got incredible work, and you've got an amazing brand, and you've got a ton of costs, but no one knows who you are. And so you may just need to start hustling. You may need to just get some work in and start creating some word of mouth within that market. And so I think it is tricky to come in full force at industry pricing when you're in a brand new market just starting out. And so I do tend to say come in 20% under where kind of the average is, but make sure you don't stay there. The problem is photographers get comfortable and scared at the same time. They get comfortable at that price range and they get terrified of raising the prices, and that's BS. You need to, so you can come in 20% under, but then raise your prices. Every 3 bookings, every month, and start kind of bringing them up, even just a couple $100s at a time, but bring them up slowly and steadily. And I think that's the ticket. Look, even when we came into Columbus, we came in and we had a little bit of a different situation here. When we moved to Columbus, we had an entire year's worth of clients ready to go. And so we just kind of showed up on the scene and charged more than every other photographer in the entire city. And that was a way to differentiate ourselves, but it was also because we just knew it. We just really knew that, like, man, we're worth this, and we want to be recognized and seen as some of the best of the best. And that worked, and it was a really ballsy move, but it worked because we had an entire years of booking ready to go. I would have not have done that if we were coming to Columbus without that foundation ready to support us, right? If I was coming in brand new to the city, even with the skill that we have, I think I would have had to recognize, like, I just need to get work in. We need to start generating some profit here, and generating some word of mouth. And so I think coming in a little bit lower is okay, as long as you go up. Let me see if I made sure I answered your question. Do you feel like experience should dictate? By the way, as far as charging, I think the main thing that is going to dictate how much you can charge is going to be your branding, is going to be the actual perception that you give off, right? Your brand. I can't emphasize this enough, man. There are some real shitty photographers out there charging more money than I do, because they've got an amazing brand. And I'm not pissed off by it, but I'm going to react to it, and I'm going to make sure that I level my game up too. There's some of the best photographers out there really aren't making the most for their money. It's true. I'm not saying undervalue your craft. I'm not saying don't care about your craft. You better care about your craft. If you don't, then I would question you're in, like, the reason why you're in this industry in the first place. So you have to care about your craft. But at the same time, as you're trying to raise your prices, your brand is one of the number one things that is going to help you to do that. That and being willing to accept the money. I am floored by the amount of photographers who are unwilling to accept that amount of money, right? They don't believe that they're worth it, and so they simply will not charge that amount. They won't accept the amount of money. You have to have self-worth, be willing to accept payment from clients, and then also have an amazing brand. Still show up. Start like learn your lighting, learn your all this stuff. Cool, man. Dave says, I think you just duplicated it. Thanks so much. Not what I wanted to hear, ha ha ha. But I'm glad you said it. Sorry, man. I just I don't want to give bad advice, right? I think, like, I'm cautious about this because as you're starting a business, as a lot of times too, these photographers have families. I don't want to be the guy who's just like, yeah, show up and your self-worth and your work and your brand and everything. You're just gonna be able to show up and blow up the scene, and that might happen. That really might happen, but man, I really want to make sure that you have a safety, that you have clients coming in the door. You actually have money starting to get churning, and one of the best ways to do that is to step in and create incentive for people to hire you. And that's okay if it's a cost incentive. Over deliver it. Do things for free, expensive, but never cheap. If you're going to step in and charge 20% under, you still better be shooting weddings like you're a $10,000 wedding photographer, giving the entire experience ultimate value. Move your prices up, and now that word of mouth is going to go with those same clients. Okay, cool. Christina says, I left listening to your podcast when Facebook alerted me you were live. That's awesome, Krista. Just came across your podcast like week. So cool. Love it. Learning a lot. Love the positivity. I'm a children's and family photographer, and I feel like you keep it relative to more than weddings. Awesome. That is a goal. I think there's a big crossover, by the way, between portraiture and wedding work. But obviously, I think because I do weddings so much, that's something that I tend to relate more to. But I'm glad that there's been a crossover for you. I'm struggling with raising my prices right now, and I'm learning so much from the podcast to help. Just nervous. Just want to say thanks. Well, thank you, Krista. That's so cool. I'm really glad that you're here, girl. In terms of struggling to raise prices, I think a lot of times it's the fear, right? We have this self-limiting belief that if I raise my prices, I'm going to lose my clients. For starters, that's not a bad thing, right? Because if I still had the same clients that I had when I started out as a photographer, I'd be in terrible shape, right? We need to have there needs to be a turnover in clients as we're raising our brand, as we're raising the quality of our work. There will be a natural turnover. I think portrait photographers struggle with this more because if you're doing portraiture for a newborn, then they're going to be 3 months and then 6 months and then a year, and you're going to keep needing to see the same client potentially. And so when they come back and your pricing is more, I think portrait photographers really wrestle with this. I just want to encourage you, it's okay to charge more. It's okay to have a client that paid you one amount when they came in the first time, and now when they come in again, that you charge more. And a simple explanation is like, look, I've invested way more into the into the gear that we use, into my education, into the work that we create for you, into the memories that you have, into the products that you're now able to receive. On top of it, this is now my full-time job, and I want to make sure that I can and make this sustainable and continue to create memories for you. And so because of it, we have moved things up, but I know that as my pricing has gone up, so has my value to you, right? So is the quality of work, and so is what you're going to receive. And I want to prove that to you. And so let's do our next shoot. And if you don't think that it was actually more than what it was maybe last time, and this is like if you want to go this route, then we can have a conversation. But just be real about it. Explain like literally what's happening. Like, look, my prices go up because that's the way this works. Anyhow, cool, Krista. Yeah, it's my biggest fear. You are in my mind. It is. Anyhow, and I think too, just creating the realistic expectation, right? I think. Especially with portrait photographers who are starting to do in-person sales, one of the biggest problems is you don't create the expectation for the price increase or the expectation for the sale. And so again, you have to create that. There can't be a moment where the client comes in and you're like, boom, prices went up, or like, boom, you're buying wall art. You have to educate your couples, create that expectation, and let them know ahead of time, okay? And just make sure that as you let them know, that you also remind them that yes, your prices are going to be going up, but so is the value that they're receiving. And I think too, with a lot of portrait photographers, it's a lot of friends, it's a lot of people that you're close with. And I think as long as you can actually believe this in your heart, to actually believe that you're worth charging more and have a genuine conversation about why you're doing it, people are going to be able to come alongside you and support you in that. And if not, well then, like again, there's a turnover and they weren't your client, and that's okay. Let them walk away, but let them be filled in with someone else who is a much better fit, okay? Anyhow, you guys, thank you so much. Any suggestions for how to get started second shooting weddings, where to find primary shooters to partner up with? Dude, so just like, it's the internet. And so just like reach out to people and be genuine and be heartfelt. And feel free to even give people a call. Don't be a stranger. And what I mean by that is, if there was someone, this is for real, you guys. If you are wanting to ask a favor, make sure that you're going to show up before you ask value from any other person, that you're going to show up and deliver value first. Show up providing 51% of the value and ask 49% of the value in return, okay? And so if you're going to be a second shooter for someone, this just happened to me. There was a dude who I'm close with, and he was like, hey, I just want to come help. I don't want money. I just want to come help and be a part of this for you. Is that cool if I show up and work with you on this? And I think a lot of times, so I mean, yeah, of course, why not? Let's do this thing, man. So there's that, but also it's don't be a stranger, right? Before you go asking a random photographer, can I second shoot with you? Again, knock on their door, well, I mean is this, become a neighbor, right? Comment on their work, encourage them, compliment what they're doing, let them know that you exist and that you appreciate the kind of work that they're doing, that you have their eye on you. Like when people actually, you guys who are watching us now, Carrie Webb, Dave Johnson, you guys right now, I will not forget your name, right? So like down the road, if you were to come ask me for something, I'll be much more willing to recognize that and to say, yeah, let's take a look at that, versus if some stranger knocks on my door and says, hey, Ben, will you help me out? And so don't be a stranger to the people that you want to partner up with, okay? Encourage them, compliment them, comment on their work, and it's okay to do that online, and then begin a conversation. So there you go. Dave says, this is gold. Good, man. One more question. I really appreciate it. If you wanted to knock a reasonable sized group shot out of the park, what would be your go-to lighting setup? Hopefully it's this natural light and we go to open shade. But other than that, I mean, dude, there's so many variables, man. It's like, what room are we in? What kind of space? Are we going to be able to bounce light? Do we have to use an umbrella? So ideally open shade. The next is if we're in an area that's indoors but we can't bounce the light because the ceiling is too high or the walls and ceiling are too dark, I would use off-camera flash, but I would use an umbrella, right? Not just direct bulb or a softbox. I'd use an umbrella because it's going to throw the light out all over the place, diffuse it every which way, cast it every which way, and I would make sure that I wouldn't get my light on the umbrella too far off to the right. I would actually keep it much closer to me. Once you get too far off to the light, you're going to start getting a lot more shadows cast from people onto other people. So you're just going to have to keep the light a little bit more front, okay? I'm not saying on camera, just right next to me. It's just the reality. It's not going to be one of those shots where everyone has perfectly sculpted light to shadow, light to shadow, light to shadow. You still want to have some of that, but it's just not going to be the 45-degree angle that you're used to when doing 2 people or 4 people. You're going to need to bring that 45 degrees into like 25-degree angle, okay? So there's that. The next is if there was the ability to bounce, then I would probably actually just throw it 45 degrees and back from me, bounce off the wall, ceiling corner, and come back and hit the folks. So that's what I would do to light that. You could also go 2 light setup and do 2 umbrellas on either side if you want to get fancy. But honestly, you don't need to get fancy. That's the thing, you guys. Like, you could do a billion lighting setups, but at a certain point, what's going to get the job done in a great way that's going to be good enough and efficient for you. And so there's a million ways to do it. That's how I would do it, and I think it would kick ass. So, you guys, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been an incredible day working with you guys. I'm going to peace. My little girl's napping, so I'm going to go eat some lunch. I'm going to go on a Piata shoot, and then tomorrow I shoot a wedding. So, actually, our entire team shoots weddings. We're all over tomorrow. We got 3 weddings to shoot. So, you guys, thank you for everything that you do. If you don't already, follow us on Instagram, 6-figure photo on Instagram. I do stories throughout the entire day to try to keep up with you guys and everything. So much more just documenting what's going on. So I got one more thing. You guys, I got one more thing. Holy crap. I was talking with Fundy, Andrew Funderburg from Fundy Software. There's a new version 7.5 that's coming out, and dude, just some really freaking incredible stuff going on with the new Fundy. In regards to, we do album sales right there with it, but also in regards to wall art, that it has me super, super stoked and super floored. And so I just wanted you guys to know about it first. Because I already use Fundy for like everything in regards to our premiere dates and in-person sales. And it's like changed everything, but this is also going to help things. It's not going to be like an entire game changer. It's just going to help make it even better than what it's doing. So I was just excited about it. So, okay, cool. Bye, everybody.